1 year of college, I grew up a little different than most people. I grew up on a 880-acre farm, which was also a children's home, with about 80 kids. We had our own house though. My dad was the administrator. And we learned a lot of things as farming before I went to college. I also raised my own chickens and made enough money with the GI Bill, made enough money to put myself through that first year of college. And when I came back from the service with this GI Bill and what I made raising chickens in high school was enough to take care of my college expense. So I had no loans when I graduated, but I graduated broke.
Was that like, do you feel thankful that you had?
Oh, I'm very happy I did that. It was quite, I built my own brooder house.
What's a brooder house?
A brooder house is a house for little chicks to grow up in. When you buy the chicks from the hatchery, these little chicks, and I used to buy them each year, and I raised them, and I culled them out. And I took agriculture in high school. And I used to get the students out there with me to cull the chickens, the hens out, to see which ones were laying eggs and which ones weren't. And then I sold those that weren't. I went and butchered them myself. And I sold them to the ladies in town, which had a community cannery at that time, a federal community cannery. This is before refrigeration. And they went and canned the chicken and put them in number 5 tins.
Oh.
So I made money on those that weren't laying eggs. And then I sold my eggs, and the price was good at that time. And talk about humor, I used to take $100 bills wrapped around together and throw them at my sisters.
For the end of World War II, and then that's it? Or did you...
No, I had a choice when I was discharged. At that time, you had a choice whether you wanted to go into the reserve or not. I chose not to. I went back to college. I'm very thankful I did. Otherwise, I probably would not be living today because I would have been pulled over into the front lines as a medic in Korea. My Army career was quite interesting. Anybody that had been in college, when we were at bivouac, well, my first stint was at Camp Fannin. I was in the infantry replacement. I was training to go over to the Far East and go right up to the front lines and start fighting when I finished that training as a fill-in for those that got injured or were killed over in the islands over in the Far East. That's what my first training was for. But anybody that had been to college, war, about that time the German war, it was over. And then they called us up at 5:30 in the morning out 40 miles away from camp. Got in that truck, and a half an hour after we got back to camp, we were on a train to Camp Grant, Illinois, and we were opened up a separation center, a medical separation center for the veterans coming back. At the separation center, I got the job of setting up the interviewing department in the separation center. So my crew was the first one to interview the veterans when they came back before they went through the physical. The only replica I can show you of that place is right here. This is a urine specimen jar I kept. For the boys had to go to the bathroom in this and then carry it to the lab and give it to the lab personnel to be tested their last urine before they left the Army. And then from there, that's when I worked at nights in Rockford, Illinois. From there, all of a sudden I got a call. They called up one morning and I ended up in Percy Jones General Hospital and was assigned to the hand plastic division of Percy Jones General Hospital. And that's where I worked until the last month in the Army, when I was set up for court-martial, which is another story. Son met Wayne Bell, and he told him about my court-martial and how I got off of it, and so forth. Now, the court-martial was because I went out for football while I was in hand plastic surgery, and I made the football team and I was the starting fullback. But I was always out to practice, one of the first ones, and the general's son, Murchison, was about this high, and he was our mascot. And I used to go and play with him, catch and so forth, at the beginning of practice. Well, the general came one day and says, my nickname in football was Jitterbug. And he said, Jitterbug, if you ever run into any problems, just let me know. Well, it so happened, when I started football, I was not in shape, and so I was in physical therapy every day by the physical therapy department working on me. And so it got so I had to leave hand plastic surgery. So they put me in orthopedics, and there was a regular Army nurse. She'd been in the Army, ready to retire, who was a, may I use the term I used then?
Yes.
She was a bitch. She charged me with insubordination. No, it so happens that your job is, I don't care for football, and your job is to clean all these black marks off the orthopedic ward. The crutch marks and everything else. And like a crazy fool, I said, I didn't call her captain. I said, ma'am, I don't know how to do things like that. If you would show me, I'll be glad to give it a try. Down to the captain's office, she charges me with insubordination. She was hoping she would break me so I couldn't even play football. Well, it so happens in the Army, if you go up against a court-martial, and you can have an attorney or any officer represent you. I asked if I could make one telephone call, and I did. It was to the general of the entire camp. And I said, General Murchison, well, they didn't put me on right away, and I said, oh, Jitterbug, and he talked with me a couple of days ago. He said if I ran into any problems, I should give him an immediate call. Because his favorite was that football team. Well, I down in the captain's office, and I got the phone, and I said, General, this is what's happening. They're going to try to court-martial me so I can't play football. put the captain on. The captain said, I heard the captain say was, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, I will, sir. Thank you, sir. And he turned to me and said, Corporal Larson, you have a new job by the order of the general. You must empty my waste paper basket once a day between the hours of 8 and 12 if you feel like it. It's the one time I have pulled strings. And that was the end of the court martial.